Hello, everyone, and welcome to this English lesson about toppings. I think last week or the week before I mentioned toppings, things that you put on top of other things. And I thought to myself, I think I could do a whole lesson on toppings. Now, I must admit, this is very much a North American English lesson. I'm going to talk about the kinds of things we put on top of ice cream, the things we put on top of pizza, the things we put on top of our hamburgers and sandwiches and other things. And we call all of those things toppings. So this will be a lesson where even though I just had breakfast and these are not breakfast foods, I am going to start craving ice cream, pizza, and hamburgers as I do this lesson. But anyways, thank you for being here. Welcome to this English lesson about toppings. Whipped cream. So we're starting with ice cream and other types of desserts. Whipped cream is made from cream. And as you whip the cream with a mixer or blender, it kind of starts to foam up a little bit and it turns into this wonderful cream. It's basically made with cream and sugar, maybe a little bit of vanilla if you like vanilla. But whipped cream is a common topping for ice cream, pie, even a brownie. A brownie is like a chocolate baked square. A lot of times we will put whipped cream on those types of desserts. Now, in English, you might hear someone say whipped cream without pronouncing the ED. This is technically incorrect, but we do say it. Like, I like whipped cream on my pie. I'm supposed to be saying whipped cream. You hear the ED, whipped cream. But when we speak quickly, we sometimes don't pronounce it or forget to actually say it. So I like whipped cream on apple pie. I like whipped cream on ice cream as well. Yummy, yummy, yummy thing to have as a topping. We also have something called chocolate syrup or chocolate sauce. This is something that we always have in our fridge. We almost always put it on ice cream when we eat ice cream. It just adds a nice yumminess to it. There's a new word for you, yumminess. So even if I'm having chocolate ice cream, I will put chocolate syrup or chocolate sauce on the ice cream because I find it quite tasty. And then we also have caramel syrup or caramel sauce. This is made, I think, by cooking sugar a little bit till it turns brown. I don't think you burn the sugar, but there's a process whereby you can make caramel. And so I love having caramel sauce or caramel syrup on ice cream as well. We don't normally have this in the fridge though. We only buy this topping every once in a while as a special treat. But we always have chocolate syrup or chocolate sauce in the fridge. And syrup and sauce for both of these is interchangeable. Chocolate syrup, chocolate sauce, you would hear both. Caramel syrup, caramel sauce, you would hear both words used. And then chocolate chips. Normally, this is something you use when you're baking. If you make chocolate chip cookies, you put chocolate chips in with the other ingredients. But we often put chocolate chips on top of our ice cream as well. Again, this first set of toppings is mostly going to be the things we put on ice cream. I will try to remember if we put the topping on something else as well. But often, like last night, I had a bowl of ice cream and I had some chocolate chips and chocolate sauce on top. It was very, very good. And then chocolate sprinkles. So this is something that we always have in our cupboard because my parents originally came from the Netherlands, and this is a very popular topping to even put on toast. So this morning I actually had toast with butter and chocolate sprinkles, which we actually called, this is a Dutch word, I think, hagelslag. If anybody here is from the Netherlands, I might have said that wrong. But chocolate sprinkles are little pieces of chocolate that you put on ice cream and some other desserts. Whenever you use whipped cream, sometimes you put some chocolate sprinkles just for fun. And then we, of course, just have sprinkles. These are just not chocolate. So the word sprinkle, whenever it's something small like that, we call them sprinkles. So chocolate sprinkles, and sprinkles. And these would just have more of a fruity taste to them, these types of sprinkles. And then, of course, sometimes we will put chopped nuts, maybe chopped walnuts, maybe chopped peanuts, maybe chopped pecans. There are different nuts that taste really good with ice cream, and we use them as toppings. Now, all of these things together are used to create what's called a sundae. And a chocolate sundae would have chocolate on top. You might have a strawberry sundae with strawberries on top. So a sundae is a bowl of ice cream with different toppings on it. And one of those toppings could be chopped nuts. And then, of course, maraschino cherries. I hope I'm saying that correctly. We usually just say, I'll have a cherry on top. But a maraschino cherry is a cherry that is preserved in a jar, and it has this very bright, vibrant red color, and it's very, very sweet. So sometimes we will have a jar of maraschino cherries in the fridge, and we'll take one out and we'll put it on top of our ice cream. And again, whenever you have whipped cream, sometimes if you have whipped cream, even on pie, you might put a cherry on top. And then, of course, fruit or berries. I mentioned strawberries. We also put blueberries on top of things. You might put fruit or berries on top of yogurt as well as ice cream. You might put sliced bananas on top of your ice cream as a topping. Many, many different fruits and berries are used as toppings. I in particular like strawberries. Right now in Canada, it is strawberry season. We can buy strawberries year round, but right now the strawberries are field grown Ontario strawberries. I live in the province of Ontario, and those strawberries during the month of June always seem to taste the best. But yes, strawberries are very, very yummy as a topping. Hot fudge. So you might wonder, how is this different than chocolate syrup or chocolate sauce? Well, hot fudge is a thicker form of chocolate, and it's actually warm. That's why it's called hot fudge. And when you put this onto ice cream, it kind of gives you a mix of cold and hot to eat together. The ice cream is very, very cold. The hot fudge is very, very warm. And it kind of melts the ice cream a little bit with each bite, and it just tastes amazing. I'm a big fan of hot fudge. In fact, right now, McDonald's has a deal where you can buy a hot fudge sundae for only $2 Canadian. They do that during the summer. And Jen and I usually end up eating too much of it, too many of them, because it's such a good deal and it's very, very yummy. Cold ice cream with hot fudge on top. And then sometimes we just crumble up cookies. These are Oreos. Someone has crumbled up Oreos to put them on top of the ice cream. You can have ice cream with crumbled up chocolate chip cookies. We don't usually put the whole cookie on as a topping, but usually the cookie is crumbled up. That means it's broken into smaller pieces. Very, very tasty. In fact, I think this ice cream flavor is called cookies and cream. And I think the person has added some extra cookies as a topping on top. Super yummy. This is actually making me hungry. By the way, this is the first picture that made me hungry. I don't know why. The hot fudge made me hungry as well, but this one really did for some reason. Mozzarella cheese. So the most common topping, in fact, a topping that is so common some people don't think it's a topping, is mozzarella cheese. So when you go and buy a pizza, in Canada, generally when you order a pizza, it's going to be crust, tomato sauce, and cheese. That is a basic pizza. And then from there, you add your toppings. But I wanted to add mozzarella cheese because one of the toppings you can get is double cheese. So when you order a pizza in Canada, and I'm sure in other parts of the world, when they say, if you say, I'll have an extra large pizza, and if they say, what toppings would you like? You could say, I'll have double cheese, pepperoni, and bacon. That would be a common thing to order. When you have double cheese, it literally means twice as much cheese. It makes the pizza quite tasty. And we usually use mozzarella cheese. Mozzarella cheese is a very somewhat fresh cheese. It's not a cheese that's aged for years. It's a cheese that's made and it's very stringy and gooey when it melts. That's what makes it good for pizza. And then, of course, one of the most common toppings, if not the most common toppings for pizza, is something called pepperoni. Pepperoni is a type of dried sausage that has a bit of a spiciness to it. And when it is on pizza, it gets nice and crispy. And it also is a little bit greasy. It adds a little bit of grease to the pizza, which has a good flavor to it as well. Let me describe those two things again. When you cook something and it becomes crispy, it means like crunch, crunch. When you bite it, it has a little bit of crunch to it. And by greasy, I mean the pepperoni lets out some oil when you cook it. So you can see this pizza has a little bit of a shine to it because the pepperoni is a little bit greasy. But that makes it good, by the way. And then another common topping here is ham. If I zoom in, this pizza might even have pineapple on it because ham and pineapple is another common topic. I keep saying topping for pizza here in Canada. And some people do argue about whether it is good. In fact, I'm just going to check for a second. We call it Hawaiian. That's usually what we call it, or ham and pineapple. So anyways, ham is, of course, a thinly sliced meat that we often just use to make sandwiches, but we also will put it on our pizza. And then bacon. So bacon is a very crispy meat. We put bacon on a lot of things in Canada. It's definitely a topping for pizza, but we also will eat bacon by itself on a sandwich. We'll have a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. Sometimes we have eggs and bacon for breakfast. Bacon is just a very common meat to use as a topping because it's kind of salty and has a very yummy taste for people who do eat meat. So bacon is a very common topping for pizza as well. If you order a meat lover's pizza, it will have pepperoni, bacon, and sausage on it. Speaking of sausage, the sausage we put on pizza doesn't look like the sausage at the bottom. We usually crumble the sausage up, and so it looks like this when you put it on pizza. So this is a sausage. If you break the sausage open and you crumble it up, so you make it into tiny little pieces, that's how we would use it on a pizza. And again, it's different in different places, but meat lovers pizza might have pepperoni, bacon, and sausage. It might have pepperoni, ham, bacon, and sausage. It might have a whole bunch of different types of meat, and it's called a meat lovers pizza. So when I go to a pizza place, I can order a cheese pizza, a pepperoni pizza. Supreme has like pepperoni, green peppers, and mushroom, I think. And then Canadian has bacon, pepperoni, mushrooms. Meat lovers has 3 or 4 kinds of meat. So there are names for different pizzas. And Hawaiian pizza would have pineapple and ham. Green peppers. So let's talk about some of the vegetables that you will find on pizza. You will often find green peppers. It's one of the most common vegetable toppings in Canada. A green pepper, of course, looks like this. It's definitely bigger than that, though. That's a pretty tiny looking pepper. And the nice thing about green peppers is they are not hot. They are very mild pepper. It doesn't add spicy heat to the pizza. And so often we will cut up a green pepper or even red or orange. There's different colors, and use those as a topping on pizza. And then, of course, mushrooms. This is a pretty common topping. I think like a pepperoni and mushroom pizza is pretty common. That's pretty yummy. I would eat that. I'll eat almost any kind of pizza, by the way. But mushrooms, of course, look like this. They grow in dark places, dark, cool places. And then when you cook them, they add very unique flavor. I think mushrooms add a umami flavor. umami is a kind of a funny word. You'll have to look that up possibly. Let me put that in the chat for a sec. I think this is how you spell it, umami. And then onions. I actually don't like onions as a topping. So onions, of course, when you cut them, they make you cry. Onions add a very unique flavor to things. You can eat them raw or you can eat them cooked. When you cook them, they get a little bit sweeter. And this would be a pretty common sight. Someone would put onions on their pizza to add an oniony flavor. So onion is another topping. I don't think it's as common as the other toppings. Jen likes onion on her pizza. I don't really like onion on my pizza. I prefer not to have onion. And then olives. So there are green olives and black olives. I like black olives on pizza. I don't really like green olives. They have a slightly different taste, but I will also admit that in Canada, we do not have high quality olives. We can't grow olives here. And so I think if I ever went to Spain or a country where they grow olives, they probably taste way better than they do in Canada. All of our olives come from somewhere else and they're in a jar and they sit on a shelf for a long time. So I'm not sure olives are the most yummiest type of topping that they could be. But I still like black olives. They are yummy. I like the saltiness and the bitterness. Pineapple. So here's the what is kind of controversial for some reason. Some people love pineapple on their pizza. Some people think pineapple should never be on a pizza. And so I actually like ham and pineapple pizza. We sometimes call it Hawaiian here. And I like the sweetness and a little bit of sour from the pineapple and the ham. Often in Canada, when we serve ham as a meat, if we roast a ham in the oven, we will roast it with pineapple. So pairing is something you do with food. You'll pair two foods together. Pineapple and ham often go together, like besides pizza. And so having ham and pineapple on a pizza is a nice flavor blend, but some people really, really don't like it. I, however, don't mind pineapple on pizza. There goes the fly. And then, of course, it isn't just your pepperonis and your bacons. Sometimes you can have chicken on a pizza. In Canada, when you order a pizza with chicken on it, we usually don't use tomato sauce as the sauce. We might use a pesto as a sauce. We might use an Alfredo sauce. We might use a white sauce. We might even use a barbecue sauce, but we don't very often use a tomato sauce with cheese and then put chicken on it. Usually we change the sauce if we use chicken as a topping. I think it just tastes better probably. And then hot peppers. Some people love things hot. And by hot, I don't mean temperature, I mean spiciness. Some people like jalapeno peppers on their pizzas. Some people like pickled hot peppers on their pizzas. I don't mind hot peppers on a pizza, but no one else in my family likes that, so we don't often order that. So as a topping, it's an acquired taste, we would say. Some people love having hot peppers on pizza. Some people find it a little too spicy. But to me, this would probably taste good, having some hot peppers on a pizza. That would be yummy for me. Yes, so let's move on to hamburgers and some other sandwiches. So ketchup is probably the most common topping. We also call it a condiment in Canada and probably North America. I know in some countries mayonnaise is very popular or mustard is very popular, but we are very much a ketchup nation. We put ketchup on our hamburgers. I put ketchup on scrambled eggs. We put ketchup, sometimes we use ketchup with French fries, but it's definitely a very common topping on a hamburger. Now remember, with a hamburger, the topping is actually inside the hamburger and usually on top of or below the meat. So even if the topping is below the meat, like the tomato and lettuce, we still call it a topping. It just depends on how you like to build your hamburger. Ketchup is, of course, made mostly with tomatoes and a bit of vinegar and sugar. It's a very yummy, yummy topping. I do like ketchup a lot. Mustard is, of course, made from mustard seed. Now, the difference between mustard and ketchup is that mustard is a little more, it has a nicer flavor, like a stronger flavor. We would say that mustard complements meat really well. So if you are someone who eats meat, mustard can make hamburgers and sausages and hot dogs taste better. It's a yummy condiment. And ketchup has sugar in it. Mustard usually doesn't. So if you are someone who wants to make sure you're eating healthy, mustard is sometimes a better choice. Relish. So relish is generally made from cucumbers, and they're pickled cucumbers with some vinegar and sugar. And most relish in Canada is quite sweet. In fact, we call it sweet relish. And so it looks like this. Finely chopped cucumbers. I think they are pickled, which means there's some salt involved in the process as well. And then there's definitely sugar. So relish. These would be probably the three most common toppings for a hamburger. Ketchup, relish, and some mustard. And then we also sometimes use mayonnaise. So again, mayonnaise made from oil and eggs whipped together. Mayonnaise is kind of a fun tasting condiment or topping. We use mayonnaise sometimes on hamburgers, but it's more common to use mayonnaise on a sandwich. So if you have two pieces of bread with some meat, you might put some mayonnaise on as a topping. But I know when my relatives visit from the Netherlands, they eat a lot of mayonnaise, more mayonnaise than me. And by the way, we just call it mayo. Do you have some mayo? The short form's a little easier to say than mayonnaise. Barbecue sauce. So barbecue sauce is kind of a smokier, meatier tasting form of ketchup, if I could say that. Barbecue sauce is used as an ingredient when cooking meat, but sometimes we also put it on a hamburger as a topping. What I mean by that is sometimes when I am barbecuing hamburger patties, by the way, the meat in a hamburger is called a patty. When I'm barbecuing them, I might put some barbecue sauce on while I barbecue. But sometimes when I am getting a hamburger ready to eat, I might put some barbecue sauce on after I've cooked it as a topping. So yummy, yummy, yummy. I do like barbecue sauce. It adds a nice flavor to things. And then, of course, the healthier options. Lettuce is very common, although Jen and I have started to use spinach instead of lettuce. You can buy baby spinach here in Canada, and we use that instead of lettuce because it's a little darker green and a little healthier. But yes, this green part here is called lettuce. It adds a little bit of vegetable freshness to your hamburger. And then tomato, of course, the red vegetable you see there is tomato. It's very common to use tomato as a topping. You can even buy like a club sandwich has tomato on it. A BLT obviously has tomato, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. But in terms of hamburger toppings, tomato and lettuce are probably your two most common vegetables to have on a hamburger. And then onions. Once again, I don't really like onions. I don't know what it is about onions. It's not that they give you bad breath. That doesn't bother me that much. You can just brush your teeth. It just makes my stomach feel funny. I'm not allergic to onions, but I never feel good after I eat onions, raw or cooked onions. But raw onions, very common topping. I almost said topic again. If you watch the lesson again, and if at any point I say topic instead of topping, I mean topping. Raw onions, very common topping for hamburgers for some people. And then, of course, cheese, which immediately turns the hamburger into a cheeseburger. So a hamburger has no cheese. A cheeseburger is just a hamburger where someone decided they wanted cheese on it. So they used cheese as a topping. The cheese is almost always right on top of the patty, and it's usually put on the patty right at the end of the cooking process for a few seconds, or immediately when the patty is put on a bun when it's still very hot, so that it's the only topping that melts a little bit. Usually the cheese on a hamburger is a little bit melted. So it goes from solid to, well, you can see this one is oozing down the side a little bit. And then bacon. So bacon, again, is a salty meat, a salty pork meat. It comes from pigs. Another very common topping. It adds a lot of intense flavor. That's what you get from bacon, some really nice flavor. And then pickles. So a pickle, of course, is a small cucumber that's been pickled. That means it's been put in very salty water or a brine, a salt brine, and that preserves the pickle. So you buy a jar of pickles and you can slice the pickles up and put them on your hamburger. You can also buy a jar of pickles that are already sliced. That's very common as well. And then this is relatively new in the last 5 or 10 years. Avocado has become a very popular topping. All of our avocados come from, I think, Mexico. I think almost every avocado we buy comes from Mexico, and they are yummy. A ripe avocado where it's just a little bit soft, and you kind of scoop it out and slice it and put it on your hamburger. Very, very tasty. We don't do this often. In the winter, it's sometimes hard to find good avocados, but it has become a much more popular topping here in Canada. I think 10 or 20 years ago, not very many people ate avocados in Canada, but they are certainly becoming more and more popular now.